Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and this is Trash Tales, The Road to Publication, Episode 2. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, time for another episode of Trash Tales, The Road to Publication, where I am detailing the various elements, stages, etc. Of what it takes to get this wonderful anthology of trashy fiction ready for publishing and releasing on the 1st of August this year. So in episode 1, we had got our lineup of stories, and I took you through the timeline of the project. Since then, we've been sorting out some of the preliminary admin stuff. So we've got all of the authors officially signed on. They've all signed their publishing agreements and they've furnished us with their author biographies, things like that, so you can learn a little bit more about them when you've read their stories in the collection. And the other thing that we've got sorted is the order in which the stories will appear. So to figure out the order then, Olly and I kind of put our heads together. We both did our kind of our own sort of personal orders and then looked at them together. And we were actually reasonably close. We actually had some stuff that was exactly matched, which was really nice. So it didn't take too much wrangling to get the order sorted. But yeah, we've kind of basically both looked at the individual stories and made sure that we've got them in a nice kind of order that mixes them up in terms of genre and length and tone. That's another one, tone, so darker versus lighter stories, so that readers get a varied experience as they work through the collection. That's for readers who want to start at the beginning and work through stories chronologically in the collection to finish at the end. But we are also aware that some readers, and I'm like this is what, this is the way I read anthologies, some readers like to be able to dip in and out and not necessarily read from start to end. And so we're working on a way to visually identify the genre, tone, etc. of each story in the content section, so that readers who don't want to read from beginning to end, but want to dip into the collection based on what they're in the mood for, has a clear reference, so they can find something that's suitable to their tastes on that day. So they might be looking for some fun horror, or some gritty crime, or some bonkers science fiction, things like that. We want to make it easy for you to find a suitable story easily, and also I think it'll be nice in terms of design. We can do something nice visual with that. So the story order is pretty much there. We may tweak a few bits around as we move through the rest of the process. As you kind of read the stories more and you start to read them in order, there might be somewhere we think, oh, actually that might fit better there, etc. But generally that is, a near to final order that we've got. And so now we've got that sorted and the authors are officially signed on, it's really been time for me to dive into the copy editing, which is what I've started doing in the last week or so. And so the bulk of this video today will be about that process of copy editing. So what is it? What is copy editing and how does it work? So I will go through the stories more than once to do the edits. But the sort of first round, if you like, is all about checking and correcting and cleaning up. This is the bulk of the work really for copy editing. There is a lot of checking and correcting involved. So taking each story individually, I'll be looking at cleaning up the document, so like doing things like removing unwanted formatting or like extra spaces, things like that. I will be correcting errors or inconsistencies in spelling, punctuation, grammar, style, usage, things like that. I will be checking and correcting spellings of names, for example, places or people that might require a query to the author on spellings, things like that. It will also be checking any kind of cross-references within stories to make sure that those are accurate. Fact checking where that's applicable in a story. And something that's very specific to fiction copy editing as opposed to general copy editing for, say, non-fiction texts or business documents, things like that, is checking that the characters' physical characteristics and names stay the same throughout each story, and that the timeline and fictional world all hold together. The narrative voice remain consistent, things like that. And then I will need to bring each individual story in line with the editorial style for the project. It's the copy editor's job to draw up this style sheet. And the Trash Tales style sheet, which I will pop up on screen, is based on what I would have as my publisher's house style for Kilter and Rammel. So it's the general style guide that I'd use for any publication, but it does need to be tweaked for each individual project. There are always differences across each individual project. So this one is essentially a Trash Tales project style guide. And in this, it's all about making style decisions to ensure consistency across the whole collection. And I've made these decisions largely based on kind of dominant conventions across all stories. Some things will remain untouched. So, for example, I am not bringing all stories in line in terms of spelling. If the original story, for instance, is written using American English spelling, then it'll stay that way. Likewise, if a story is written using British English spelling, it will stay that way. But yeah, the style sheet goes through so many different things. It is about, kind of punctuation usage. It's about formats of things like dates and all that kind of stuff. It's about when I use italics, whether it's maximum or minimum capitalizations for headings and titles. It's things like, how hyphens are used, or N dashes or M dashes, ellipses, things that can be used in a different way, or there are different uses based on, UK versus US style, things like that. There are some things which will get standardized. So yeah, the style sheet covers a whole host of different things, and I will be bringing everything in line that is mentioned on that sheet. So once this is done, all the stories should be in good shape, kind of technically speaking. That is, all spelling, punctuation, style consistencies should be sorted. So once I've done that, then I will go back over each story again individually and start to look more closely at things like clarity issues. Anything that I think might benefit from, say, a rewording. And these are all the sorts of things that I will always query with the author. If there's anything that I think could affect their voice, then I will want approval on that edit. The thing to note with copy editing is that it is not the same as developmental editing or stylistic line editing. There are, several different types of editing, and copy editing is the final stage before we get to typesetting and then proofreading. So it's all about improving clarity, removing anything that could be confusing, or making things read more clearly. So minor edits to remove anything clunky might happen, things like that, clunky sentence structure. And then once all of that is done, then there's one other big job that I need to do as part of the copy editing process before we move into typesetting. And that is to mark up the structure of the document ready for that typesetting process. This is a big one for ensuring that when the finished Word manuscript, because all the copy editing is done in Word with track changes and all that kind of stuff, when that finished manuscript is imported into the typesetting software that I'll be using, that the various kind of structural elements can be easily identified and edited. So things like headings, subheadings, body text, paragraph indentation, any lists that might appear, any footnotes that might appear, any quotes, epigraphs, even things like the title of the story and the author's name, any scene breaks, all that kind of stuff needs coding, so it's easy to sort out when it gets into typesetting. But I will go into that a little bit more when we get to the typesetting stage at a later date. For now, I've just got to get the copy editing done. So yes, that is what I am in the midst of right now. I'm currently doing the kind of the cleaning up, checking, bringing everything in line with that style sheet. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I will be going back over them, back over each individual story. And that's the point at which I'll raise any queries that I might have with authors. So yes, that'll keep me occupied for a while, I think. And then when we get into April, no doubt, that is when I will start with the typesetting. And Ollie and I will be looking at the interior design as well. So that's what will be in the next Road to Publication episode, I should think, will be interior design and typesetting. But for today, there's an overview of the copy editing process for you. Hope you found that useful, interesting, possibly. And that will do for this episode of Trash Tales, The Road to Publication. A reminder though, before I go, that we are currently seeking submissions for cover art for the anthology. The deadline is the 31st of March. Full details, submission guidelines, etc. can be found on my website, and the link is in the description. So do go check that out if you are interested in sending us some art for a potential cover image. But yes, that will do for now, folks. Thank you very much for watching. As always, do drop any thoughts or questions or anything like that you've got in the comments below. I will be back with another video soon, no doubt, so I do hope you'll join me for that then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.